Well, hello there, my young friends. It's Mr. Johnson coming to you here from Classroom 408 here at Westlake High School. Wanted to spend a few minutes reading with you The Wife of Bath's Tale. This is the third of the 4 stories that you're having to read from Canterbury to be ready for your next test. And since I could not be with you today, I thought I would make this video to where you could do the reading in class and follow along and maybe highlight certain things that can bring the story to life. I will try to bring the story to life for you. This is probably Geoffrey Chaucer's most famous story of all the Canterbury Tales. It is a story about a knight who has to go on a quest. Also, it involves Queen Guinevere, who sends him on the quest. And later in the story, we will come across a very disgusting, nasty, old lady. The story begins with lots of blah, blah, blah. There's like a prologue, some conversation between characters. So we're actually starting on line 57. In fact, you probably see on your copy of the story that I have some stuff X'd out. Starting on line 57, follow closely with me as I will read this story and tell you what to maybe mark. Now it so happened, I began to say, long, long ago in good King Arthur's day, maybe mark the next 6 lines if you're into that sort of thing. There was a knight who was a lusty liver. He liked to live it up. One day as he came riding from the river, he saw a maiden walking all forlorn ahead of him, alone as she was born. And of that maiden, in spite of all she said, by very force he took her maidenhead. Maidenhead is her innocence. This knight sees this young lady. He begins to spit game at her. I don't really know what that means. It's got something to do with Riz. I also don't know what that means. She rebukes him. She rebuffs him, I should say. She says no. He says yes. She says no. And he forces himself upon her and takes her innocence. That, my friends, is what we call sexual assault. Punishment in that day for sexual assault was very extreme. He really is supposed to be put to death. Let's see what happens. This act of violence made such a stir, so much petitioning to the king for her, maybe mark these 2 lines, that he condemned the knight to lose his head by course of law. He was as good as dead. It seems that then the statutes took that view. Maybe mark these next 3 lines. But that the queen and the other ladies too implored the king to exercise his grace so ceaselessly, he gave the queen the case. Queen, this is Queen Guinevere, and King Arthur is the king that just sentenced him to death. The queen is like, we don't want to kill him. Why don't you let me decide what his punishment should be? So he hands the case over to the queen to let her decide what should happen to this knight for attacking this woman. And granted her his life, and she could choose whether to show him mercy or refuse. The queen returned him thanks with all her might. Then she sent a summons to the knight at her convenience and expressed her will. You stand for such in the position still in no way certain of your life. Maybe mark the last 3 lines on this page. Yet you shall live if you can answer me, what is the thing that women most desire? Beware the acts and say as I require. Basically, if he wants to live, he's got to come up to the answer to this question. What is the one thing that all women want? Obviously, if this were a modern day story, the answer would be obvious. The answer would be Geoffrey Johnson. That's the one thing that all women want. But Geoffrey Johnson did not exist at that time, so it's a difficult task he's got to fulfill. And she tells him, if you can't answer on this moment, though, I will concede you this, you are to go, maybe mark the next 2 lines, a 12-month and a day to seek and learn sufficient answer, then you shall return. Basically, she gives him a year and a day to go all throughout the kingdom and find the answer to that question that is the right answer, the answer that the queen and all her ladies would agree upon. If he finds that answer, he can live. If he doesn't, they will have to execute him. I shall take gages from you to extort surrender of your body to the court. Sad was the knight and sorrowfully sighed, but there all other choices were denied. And in the end he chose to go away and to return after a year and a day, armed with such answer as there might be sent to him by God. He took his leave and went. Maybe mark the next line. He knocked at every house, searched every place. Yes, anywhere that offered hope of grace. What could it be that women wanted most? Geoffrey Chaucer. Maybe mark the next 3 lines, though. But all the same, he never touched a coast, country, or town in which there seemed to be any 2 people willing to agree. So he got lots of good answers, but he didn't get any one answer that all the women would agree upon, it seems. Line 101. Some said the women wanted wealth and treasure. Some women want money and stuff? Sure. Honor, said some. Some, jollity and pleasure. Just want to have fun. Girls just want to have fun. Girls just want to have fun. They just want to have fun. Some, gorgeous clothes. Some women like lots of clothes, particularly lots of shoes. I'm not sure what's up with that. And others, fun in bed. I'm not sure what that's talking about. Board games, maybe, in bed. Line 104, the wife of Bath gives herself kind of a shout out. To be oft widowed and remarried. Some women want to not have to be married to the same person for their husbands to pass away and they can have new husbands. Others again, and some said that what most mattered was we should be cosseted and flattered. That's very near the truth, it seems to me. A man can win us best with flattery. To dance attendance on us, make a fuss. It snares us all, the best and worst of us. Some say the things we desire are these: freedom to do exactly as we please, which you basically do anyway, with no one to reprove our faults and lies, rather to have one call us good and wise. There's not a woman in 10 score who has a fault and someone rubs the sore, but she will kick if what he says is true. You try it out, and you will find so too. However vicious we may be within, we like to be thought of as void of sin. Others assert we women find it sweet when we are thought dependable, discreet, and secret, firm of purpose and controlled, never betraying things that we are told. But that's not worth the handle of a rake. Women conceal a thing? For heaven's sake. Remember Midas? Will you hear the tale? Among some other little things now stale, Ovid relates that under his long hair, let me mark these 3 lines, the unhappy Midas grew a splendid pair of ass's ears. As subtly as he might, he kept his foul deformity from sight. So, in the telling of this story, one of the things that, one of the answers the man got was that women want to be thought of as people who keep secrets. So the wife of Bath decides to insert a little story within a story that the readers of the day would understand about an illustration about how hard it is for women to keep secrets. And he brings up the story of King Midas. You're probably familiar with King Midas. Everything he touches turns to, that's right, you just thought gold. He also is very famous for having a big old pair of donkey ears that he tries to hide underneath his hair. Line 133. Save for his wife, there was not one that knew he loved her best and trusted in her too. He begged her not to tell a living creature that he possessed so horrible a feature. And she swore, were all the world to win, she would not do such villainy and sin as saddle her husband with so foul a name. Nevertheless, to speak would be to share the shame. Maybe mark these 2 lines. Besides, to speak would be to share the shame. These 2 lines. Nevertheless, she thought she would have died keeping the secret bottled up inside. King Midas' wife doesn't want to tell people that he has donkey ears. It's embarrassing for her too, but it's such a juicy secret, and she feels like if she doesn't get to say it out loud to someone, she's just going to die. So she has to do this. It seemed to swell her heart, and she no doubt thought it was on the point of bursting out. Fearing to speak of it to woman or man, down to a reedy marsh she quickly ran and reached the sedge. Her heart was all on fire, and as a bittern bumbles in the mire, maybe mark the next 5 lines. She whispered to the water near the ground, betray me not, O water, with thy sound. To thee alone I tell it, it appears. My husband has a pair of ass's ears. Ah, my heart's well again, the secret's out. She finally was able to say it out loud, and she just kind of said it to the water. I can no longer keep it, not a doubt. And so you see, although we may hold fast a little while, it must come out at last. We can't keep secrets. As for Midas, well, read Ovid for his story, he will tell. And then at the end of our discussion in the story, she doesn't even say how the story ended, but it's important that maybe you know that. What had happened was she said the words into the water. Her words go down into the reeds, and then every time the wind blows, her words come up out of the reeds. And anytime somebody's walking by the water on a windy day, they hear her voice saying, "My husband has a pair of ass's ears. My husband has a pair of ass's ears." So because she couldn't keep the secret bottled up inside, the whole town found out that her husband had donkey ears underneath his hair. So that was just an illustration, a story within a story, to show that women can't keep secrets. I didn't say that. Geoffrey Chaucer did. The wife Bath did. Line 159, back to the real story. "This night that I am telling you about perceived at last he never would find out what it could be that women love the best. Faint was the soul within a sorrowful breast. As home he went, he dared no longer stay." Maybe mark the next 5 lines. "His year was up, and now it was the day. As he rode home in a dejected mood, suddenly at the margin of a wood, he saw a dance upon the leafy floor of 24 ladies, nay, and more." So your boy has to go and submit himself to the court and try to give an answer that would save his life. On his way back, he sees at the edge of a wood 24 ladies just kind of dancing. Well, that's more ladies he can go and ask the question to. So he approaches them. Eagerly he approached and hoped to learn some words of wisdom ere he should return. But lo, before he came to where they were, mark the last 3 lines on this page. Dancers and dance all vanished into air. There wasn't a living creature to be seen, save one old woman crouched upon the green. A fouler-looking creature, I suppose, could scarcely be imagined. So, goes to talk to these 24 ladies. He gets close. They all disappear. And then what reappears is just one disgusting, funk, nasty old lady. In fact, he says in line 175, you couldn't even imagine a fouler-looking creature. She's just disgusting. But she is a woman, and he has to try to find the answer to this question, so he approaches her. She arose and said, "Sir Knight, there's no way on from here. Tell me what you are looking for, my dear. For peradventure that were best for you, we old women know a thing or two." "Dear mother," said the knight, "alack the day, I am as good as dead if I can't say what thing it is that women most desire. If you could tell me, I would pay your hire." Maybe mark the next 5 lines. He tells her if she has the answer, he'll pay her. And she says, "Give me your hand," she said, "and swear to do whatever I shall next require of you, if so to do should lie within your might. And you shall know the answer before night." "Upon my honor," he answered, "I agree." She says she knows the answer. She'll give him the answer as long as he promises to do whatever she asks. He's got nothing to lose, so he quickly agrees to her conditions. Line 190. "Then," said the crone, "I dare to guarantee your life is safe. I shall make good my claim. Upon my life, the queen will say the same. Show me the very proudest of them all, in costly coverchief or jeweled call, that dare say no to what I have to teach. Let us go forward without further speech." Maybe mark the next 2 lines. "And then she crooned her gospel in his ear and told him to be glad and not to fear." So basically, as the reader, we see her tell him the answer. She whispers in his ear, but we don't know what it is yet. But now, when he goes to the queen and all the ladies of the court, he feels like maybe he has an answer that is the right answer, the answer that could save his life. Line 199. "They came to court. This knight in full array stood forth and said, 'O queen, I have kept my day, kept my word, and have my answer ready.' There sat the noble matrons and the heady young girls, and widows too, that have the grace of wisdom, all assembled in that place. There the queen herself was throned to hear and judge his answer. Then the knight drew near, and silence was commanded through the hall. The queen gave order he should tell them all what thing it is that women wanted most." Excuse me. He stood not silent like a beast or post, but gave an answer with the ringing word of a man's voice, and the assembly heard. "My liege and lady, in general," said he, "a man," maybe mark these next 5 lines, "a man wants the self-same sovereignty over her husband as over her lover. And master him, he must not be above her. This is your greatest wish, whether you kill or spare me, please yourself, I wait your will." Sovereignty, The answer to the question is that what women want is sovereignty over their men. And that's just another way of saying women want power. They want complete power over their men. That's what they want. So he gives that answer. All the women in the court hear it and they think, all the court, not one that shook her head or contradicted what the knight had said. Maid, widow, and wife cried, he's saved his life. So the answer that the old lady gave him, turns out, is the right answer. The one thing that all women want over their men is the power. And maybe that is a good answer, because if they want, as was mentioned earlier in the story, clothes or fun in bed or treasure or to be widowed, remarried, whatever it is that women want, if they have complete power over their men, then they get it. Well, now we have an old lady who is owed something by this knight. And on the word, up started the old wife, the one the knight saw sitting on the green, and cried, your mercy, sovereign lady queen, before the court disperses, do me right. Maybe mark the next 6 lines. 'Twas I who taught this answer to the knight, for which he swore and pledged his honor to do it. The first thing I asked of him, he'd do it, so far as it should lie within his might. Before this court, I ask you then, sir knight, to keep your word and take me for your wife. The old lady says he owes me. He gave his word. He'd give me whatever I wanted. And what she wants is to be married to this knight. Ugh. For well you know that I have saved your life. This be false denied on your sword. Alas, he said, old lady, by the Lord, I know indeed that such was my behest. Maybe mark the next 2 lines. But for God's love, think of a new request. Take all my goods, but leave my body free. He basically tells her, look, I'll give you everything I own. I'll give you whatever. Please don't make me marry you, because then we'll have to, do stuff. A curse on us, she said, if I agree. I may be foul, I may be poor and old, yet will not choose to be for all the gold that's bedded in earth or lies above, maybe mark this line, less than your wife, nay, than your very love. She says, look, I don't just want you to marry me, I want you to love me the way knights are supposed to love their ladies. My love, said he, by heaven, my damnation, alas, that any of my race and station should ever make so foul a misalliance. Yet in the end, his pleading and defiance all went for nothing. He was forced to wed. He takes his ancient wife and goes to bed. Now, peradventure, some may well suspect a lack of care in me, since I neglect to tell of the rejoicing and display made at the feast upon their wedding day. I have but a short answer to let it fall. I say there was no joy or feast at all, nothing but heaviness of heart and sorrow. Maybe mark the next 3 lines. He married her in private on the morrow. All day long stayed hidden like an owl. It was such torture that his wife looked foul. So he told her he didn't want to marry her, not just because she was gross and she was old, but she's like low birth and he is a very high birth person. He is this knight. And it's just to intermarry between station, between class, is just not done at that point. Plus, she is gross, but she gives him no choice. He marries her. They don't have a big, huge wedding like typically knights would have with people coming to rejoice. He marries her really quickly and quietly, and then takes her home and hardly ever lets her leave because he's embarrassed. Line 259. Great was the anguish churning in his head when he and she were piloted to bed. He wallowed back and forth in desperate style. His ancient wife lay smiling all the while. So they go to bed, they do stuff. He's disgusted. She's very happy. But after a while, she's like, well, he's not happy. There's something wrong with that. At last, she said, bless us, is this, my dear, how knights and wives get on together here? Are these the laws of good King Arthur's house? Are knights of his all so contemptuous? I am your own beloved wife, and I am she indeed that saved your life. Certainly I never did you wrong. Then why the first of nights so sad a song? You're carrying on as if you were half-witted. Say, for God's love, what sin have I committed? I'll put things right if you will tell me how. She's like, look, You seem so miserable. I haven't done anything to you except save your life. Why are you feeling this way toward me? Why are you acting this way? Tell me what to do. I'll make it right," as if she's got some sort of abilities to just make things right. And remember, when he first saw her, there was 24 women, and then they disappeared, and she shows up. So maybe she does have some, magic or something. "Put right," he cried. "That never can be now. Nothing can ever be put right again. Mark the next 2 lines. This is important. You're old, and so abominably plain, so poor to start with, so low-bred to follow. So no wonder if I should twist and wallow. God, that my heart would burst within my breast." So basically, excuse me, he responds to her by accusing her of 3 things. First of all, that she's old. Second, that she's plain. That's kind of their word in the day, just say she's ugly. Look, you're an ugly woman. And to him, the biggest embarrassment is that she's poor. She's low-bred. She's low-bred. He's high-bred. And he's embarrassed to be married to her. As you see from your story, I have a big honking X put through the rest of this page. And a big honking X all the way, really, to line 380. Because what we're skipping here is she basically launches into a big honking refutation, if you will, refuting all the things that he said. He accused her of being old and ugly and low-bred, and she gives all the reasons why he shouldn't judge her that way. And it just goes on and on and on. And I know we probably should read every single word of the story, but honestly, I don't want to. And you don't really need to understand the story. Let's pick back up just in line 381. "And since it's no offense, let me be plain. Do not rebuke my poverty again. Lastly, you tax me, sir, with being old? Yet even if you've never been told by ancient books, you gentlemen engage yourselves in honor to respect old age. To call an old man father shows good breeding, and this can be supported from my reading." Now, I want you to go ahead and mark. It's a big old chunk here, but start right there in line 389 where she says, "You say," and just mark basically the rest of the page. Go all the way down to the bottom. It's a key point in the story here. When she says some stuff to kind of give him a choice. Line 389. You can just mark the rest of the page if you're into that sort of thing. So she says, "You say I'm old and fouler than a fin. You need not fear to be a cuckold then." What that word means is someone who is embarrassed because their wife or husband has cheated on them. It's wholly embarrassing to be cuckolded in this way. You say I'm ugly, you say I'm old, you don't have to worry then that I'm going to cheat on you, because nobody is going to try to get with this because I look this way. "Filth and old age, I'm sure you will agree, are powerful wardens over chastity. Nevertheless," now she says this, don't think about it too much, it's pretty gross. "Nevertheless, knowing your delights, I shall fulfill your worldly appetites." Whew. She says, "Look, I'm old and gross. Nobody's going to try to, be with me. And I've already been with you. I know what it is that you like, in the bedroom while we're watching TV together. I know what you like. I'll do whatever you want. I'll fulfill all your appetites." She tells him that, but she can tell he's still not really down with it. So she says in line 395, a real key part of the story, she gives him an ultimatum. She gives him 2 choices and tells him he has to pick one. Line 395. "You have 2 choices. Which one will you try? To have me old and ugly till I die, but still a loyal, true, humble wife that will never displease you all her life?" Look, choice number 1, I'm going to say just like this, do whatever it is that you want, but I'll never, ever, ever embarrass you. I'll never cheat on you. It'll never happen. That's choice number 1. Choice number 2, or would you rather I were young and pretty and chance your arm what happens in a city, where friends will visit you because of me? Yes, and other places too, maybe. Which one would you have? The choice is all your own. Look, choice number 2, I will transform myself into someone who's young and pretty. I'll make myself gorgeous. But then you're always going to have to wonder whether or not I am cheating on you. Your friends will come to visit, and they really come to see you. They're coming to see me. Anytime I go out into the world, I may be unfaithful. I might embarrass you in that way. So which one do you want? Someone that's old and ugly, but always faithful, or someone that is young and pretty, but unfaithful? Now, most of us, today especially, we're very shallow men. We would probably want to choose the young person who would cheat on us, the young pretty woman who would cheat on us. But honor was very important back in this day. And when he gets this ultimatum, he gets this choice, he doesn't know which to choose. The night thought long, and with a piteous groan, "At last," he said, maybe mark the first 8 lines on this last page of the story. "At last," he said, "all the care in life, my lady, my love, my dearest wife, I leave the matter to your wise decision. You make the choice yourself, for the provision of which may be agreeable and rich and honored to us both. I don't care which. Whatever pleases you suffices me." And she says, "And have I won the mastery?" So he doesn't know which to choose. He can't possibly make that choice. He basically just gives her the power. What is the one thing that all women want? They want the power. In this moment, by not deciding and letting her decide, he is giving her, as she claims in line 412, the mastery. He's giving her the power. "It's time to choose and rule as I think fit." "Certainly, wife," he answered her. "That's it." "Kiss me," she cried. "No quarrels on my oath. In word of honor, you shall find me both. That is both fair and faithful as a wife." Because he gave her the power, she says, "I'm going to make myself young and pretty, and I'll never cheat on you. May I go howling mad and take my life unless I prove to be as good and true as ever wife was since the world was new. And if tomorrow when the sun's above I seem less fair than any lady loved, than any queen or empress, east or west, do with my life and death as you think best." Maybe mark the next 3 lines. "Cast up the curtain, husband, look at me." When indeed the knight had looked to see, lo, she was young and lovely, rich in charms and ecstasy. He caught her in his arms. His heart went bathing in a bath of blisses and melted in 100,000 kisses. Maybe mark the next 2 lines. She responded in the fullest measure, all that could delight or give him pleasure. He pulls back the curtain. She's beautiful. They immediately begin to, watch TV together. It's Netflix and chill. I'm not sure what that means, but that's what they're doing. And you get to the end of the story that the wife of Bath is telling on this pilgrimage. It's a religious pilgrimage, supposed to have a moral point. The point of the story seems to be, if you're a young knight who likes to live it up, you're a lusty liver, and you sexually assault a woman, your punishment will be a young, very attractive wife that will do whatever you want, but will never, ever cheat. So that's what this man gets. So they lived ever after to the end in perfect bliss. Maybe mark the rest of the story, starting from in perfect bliss. Because it's a religious pilgrimage, she throws in a little prayer at the end. In perfect bliss, and may Christ Jesus send us husbands meek and fresh and young, meek and young and fresh in bed. Dear Jesus, how inappropriate a prayer is this? Dear Jesus, send us husbands that are good in bed. And grace to overbid them when we wed. And, Jesus, hear my prayer, cut short the lives of those who won't be governed by their wives. And old angry niggards of their pence, settle down. That word means stingy. Any of these men, these husbands that are stingy, God send them soon a very pestilence. If these men aren't good in bed, or if they're too stingy with their money, just give them the plague, give them the pestilence. That is a highly inappropriate tale on a religious pilgrimage by a woman who just pretends to be religious. Obviously, she just wants to talk about inappropriate things. That is the third of the 4 stories that you're responsible for: the Franklin's Tale, the Partner's Tale, the Wife of Bath's Tale, and on the morrow, you, my friends, will read the Miller's Tale. Thank you very much for your attentiveness through all this blah, blah, blah. I hope it was helpful to have me read it with you and suggest annotations to take. Johnson loves you. The bald is beautiful. Okay, bye.